The hair is officially gone, and Walter White is officially a hands on drug dealer and arsonist. Hi, and welcome to Belated Binge, the podcast that doesn't take itself or the show too seriously. I'm Zach, your host, here to let you relive your favorite shows like Breaking Bad, which ended over 10 years ago, and I'm finally watching for the first time. However, if you are familiar with the podcast, you'll know that I actually started this a while ago. I did the first 4 episodes like a year ago, and then I stopped. But here's the thing. I recently realized I finished watching season 1 all back then. I just didn't record all my reactions. So, I thought it'd be fun to get back into Breaking Bad. And what better way than to share with you what my initial reactions were in real time. I have no doubt that I had plenty to say. I'll have made predictions, theories, and they're gonna all have been wrong. I'm gonna look like an idiot. And since it's been so long and I refuse to rewatch these episodes or revisit my notes, I'll probably make fun of my past self too. So grab your gas masks and chemistry sets as I react to the 6th episode of Breaking Bad Season 1, Crazy Handful of Nothing.
The Belated Binge Podcast.
Before we get started, there will be no spoilers because I have no idea what happens in the show aside from a dude becoming a meth dealer. There will be some language. Earmuff the children. Shout out to the bonus binge squad on Patreon, patreon.com/belatedbinge. We left off in the last episode with a real character growth from little buddy Jesse, who's all business with his meth these days. We also learned more about Walt's past. He finally agreed to chemo and ended the episode asking little buddy to partner up again. We shall now jump in to Crazy Handful of Nothing. And reminder, the way I was doing these back then was I was literally opening up my notes app while I was watching the episode, and I was just frantically typing everything that I possibly could about the scene and my initial reactions in this. So I am essentially recounting that, and then I will also be, I'm sure, ad-libbing as I go, and it's all going to be one giant hodgepodge of joy. So we open on aliens. Seriously, were those UFOs? Walt is back in the RV, which is not as pristine and spotless as it was when he last saw it. He finds porn, which is great. Everybody loves porn, right? I don't know. He's decided he's laying down the law. He's the chemist, the silent partner, and doesn't want any interaction or knowledge of the street side of the drug dealing. It's a good thing Walt has cancer because otherwise he's kind of shitty to root for. I don't like the way that he's a complete pushover to everyone else in his life, but then talks down to little buddy like he's some kind of authoritarian. And by the way, you're not less guilty if you're just cooking the meth and pretending that it's not being sold and consumed. He then starts giving a speech about no more blood, no more violence. You know, we're cutting back and forth to a scene of a bald Walt in the midst of the streets, looking like he's carrying a bleeding bag. I wanted to know in the moment if it had a head in it. So obviously they were playing with the storytelling there, with him talking about no more blood, no more violence. Now I'm carrying a bag that might have a head in it. And I also wanted to know what was going on with the time jump. Credits. Then we have close up on a chemo treatment. And this is the happiest his wife has looked. She's getting more pregnant, and he's absolutely miserable getting cancer treatment. He finally talks her into leaving so that she can be home when Walter Jr. gets there. And he's also lying about getting a check from their friend. Remember, there's the rich ass friend who wants to pay for all the treatment. He wants to give Walt a good job and basically hand him everything that he possibly needs. But if Walt does that, then, well, he wouldn't have to make meth. Oh, and he would have to see his ex-girlfriend or whatever she is. There's always a girl. It's always about a girl. You could be set for life with all of the treatment and insurance and all that you possibly need, or you can go behind your family's back and your wife's back to cook meth. Dang it, we're going meth. But not before we go back to teaching high school kids, because that's still a thing. Walt is still doing that. He's still a high school teacher, not just, a meth cook. Cool. Now we're back to the way that he was feeling, I guess, in this moment. He's clearly not comfortable. Um, Side effects of the treatment is most likely in my head as I am watching this for the first time a year ago. This is a lot about explosions. I think the building in that weird scene earlier was on fire. I'm guessing we're getting a lesson about explosives to tie into whatever chaotic crazy is coming. Now he's sneaking away to the bathroom to apparently vomit and shit himself at the same time. I didn't think we needed to see that. And the janitor guy, I think he called him Hugo. He was a solid dude. He says, I got this. You got kids to teach. Because Walt just vomited and shit all over the place. That's a good dude. That's a good dude. Now we're cutting to the wife, talking about Walt's weight loss and treatment stuff. And he's there in the support group. Are you kidding me? It's not enough that she is constantly up this dude's ass. Now she needs an audience when she does it. He is dying of cancer, having to actually get the treatments. And when he's not puking and shitting himself, he has to show up to a room full of people and listen to how he's not doing enough to make this easier for her and for Walter Jr. And of course, the leader of this group is going to pry into everything because that's what these things do. We're just building tension about what is Walt doing? Well, what is Walt doing? He's cooking meth, people. Leave him alone to build his drug empire. We've got a show here. This thing's going to be huge. It's episode 6, season 1. We don't know it yet, but this is about to go down in history as one of the best TV shows ever. At least what is that this what I've heard. He says he enjoys the nature. As we're seeing shots of the nature around the RV, he's cooking meth in. And he passes out while cooking, so that's good. Little Buddy is a supportive little buddy and fanning him. And he's able to figure out the cancer thing. He's very observant, this little buddy. Apparently, he knows his cancer. And we're about to have a bonding moment, bonding over how long his aunt was able to live with hers. And he's not even mad that Walt is just in this for a payday before he, croaks. And Walt tells Jesse to finish the batch, and not in a very friendly way. But then he's also sort of encouraging. So, maybe we're starting to set up like a mentorship kind of an arc thing. Walt's going to teach little buddy how to be the best meth cook, and Jesse will be the kingpin when Walt dies. Little buddy's not feeling confident, but he gets himself psyched up anyways. You got it, little buddy. You can do this. You can make that meth. And what was it that he was using before? Was he using like Tabasco sauce or something? That was his signature. He's not doing that shit anymore. No, he's doing this the right way, the humane, the organic. This is organic meth that we're making here. We're cutting to a scene between the brother-in-law and another cop who brings him the gas mask that they found. Walt's gas mask, from the first episode. Property of Walt's school written on the inside of it. And now I'm wondering if the brother-in-law is going to actually be able to put together that the best chemically created meth that has ever hit this town is cooked by someone wearing a mask from Walt's school, maybe It's the guy who teaches chemistry and who apparently has a whole past life of being like a totally innovative chemist and amazing, innovative, genius. None of this is ringing any bells. Okay, sure. We're getting a weird montage of little buddy selling meth with a funny upbeat music score going on, which is weird, but I guess we have to find ways to keep the show friendly while we're dealing drugs because we are dealing drugs, by the way. He shows up to the RV with like 2,600 bucks from selling an ounce of meth, and Walt is not happy with the weight or the return. He's got all the answers as someone who refuses to have anything to do with the actual dealing part. Why not just sell the whole pound at one time? Because nobody that little buddy is slinging to can afford a pound of meth. And Walt is just, he's being a dick. Yeah. I'm breaking the law here. No shit. This was your idea. How do we move in bulk? We get a distributor. And little buddy points out the fact that he used to know a distributor. Crazy 8. Remember him? The guy that Walt strangled to death. Oh, yeah. Walt's hands are super clean. Right? Hypocrite. I don't know. Am I supposed to root for Walt? Because it's hard. It really is sometimes. And now it's time for little buddy to do some teaching about how big time drug dealers don't just work with random ass people that they don't know. Big shock. Good God, this is common sense stuff. This isn't drug dealer stuff. This is duh. And Walt snaps, and we're back in chemo. It's so weird. The only time that I like Walt is when he's in his normal life. When he's with little buddy playing meth chief, he's an asshole. So now we got to jump back to school and vomiting again. Hugo's starting to get used to helping a vomiting Mr. White, and he's got a visitor. It's Hank, the brother-in-law, who's breaking the law, the ice with inappropriate remarks about how the lady who works at the school, is, he's he's a man's man. Remember that. This is what masculinity looks like in a very healthy way. He shows Walt the gas mask and he starts asking questions and tells Walt that he found it next to a car of a missing snitch that's probably dead. So Walt killed an informant and he's trying to play dumb. But he's coming off more as like spacey than unaware. Walt doesn't know of any masks that have gone missing, and he lets Hank go through the inventory and Hank is thinking about students. He's easily spotting missing stuff that Walt's been stealing, and it's just kind of hilarious that Hank is investigating this and not even thinking of Walt, who is the most obvious answer here. But, plot. Walt gets a call from little buddy who has to come through with an in on a new distributor. Guy named Tuco, I think was the name. It's been a little while, obviously. And Walt plays it off a bit, and Hank gives him a speech about watching his inventory and joking that Walt could be a meth cook. Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Yeah, no shit. Little buddy's nervous about meeting with the new distributor guy. He doesn't seem to trust his boy that's getting him in the door, and apparently the dude did time with him and claims that they're just real close, real tight. And there's no way this isn't going to backfire. This dude is awfully confident for a guy named Skinny Pete. They got some really tight security. And this distributor guy's not at all into small talk, but he is apparently into knives, and he forces little buddy to snort with him. And then he gets real wild about it. A lot of energy about it. Yep. And then he makes the deal. Except he wants it on trust. $35,000 worth of IOU. And he's not particularly happy when little buddy does not agree and then tries to run off with his product that doesn't go particularly well for little buddy. But the dude starts bagging up cash, upfront payment as requested. And I expect a year ago, of course, that there's going to be a catch. And there is. He starts beating little buddy with the money bag. Maybe this is the bloody bag from future Walt's vision. We shall find out. And at the school, Hank is arresting Hugo. What? Come on, man. Hugo was a good dude. Walt's at home, calling little buddy, asking where he is. And apparently they're having a poker night with Hank. Some time must have passed since Hank booked Hugo, and he explains to Walter Jr. that he had a couple of possession arrests in the past, and they found a blunt in his truck. And now Hank is bashing Walt for not knowing shit about criminals because he tried to support Hugo. And the look he gives him is pure annoyance. I guess they've found a bunch of weed at Hugo's place, and Hank goes all in on a handful of nothing. Our episode title. And now we're in the shower with Walt, and his hair's falling out. He keeps calling little buddy. He finds him at the hospital after the beating that he took. And Walt is actually finally feeling something for little buddy. And he wants the backstory. So obviously this thing's jumping all around everywhere. And it has occurred to me sometime now past that we're getting a little mini arc in here that I don't know that I clocked immediately. Maybe my notes will have it in here somewhere later, but I'm going to say it now. We kind of started off this episode with Walt being really, really shitty to Jesse. Just kind of being a dick. Being very authoritative, as if he's still his teacher, because high school teachers are the super authoritarian type when they're dealing with their ex-students as adults. I guess. I don't know. Never been a teacher. Probably best for the people learning. Anyways, but by now in the episode, as we're getting towards the end, I have very, very short, short chunk of notes left. Walt is now taking up for little buddy and feeling a sense of, I don't know if it's a sense of bonding, if it's a sense of responsibility for him. I don't know where it's coming from, but now he's like, oh, you don't fuck with little buddy. So now we're jumping back to Walt in the bathroom, and he's taking the grossest piss I'd ever seen. He's missing chunks of hair. He's taking handfuls of pills, and it's go time. Shaving the head with some beard trimmers. And I got to tell you, that's not as easy as this show makes it look. I have clogged me some beard trimmers trying to shave my head before. It was not a good look. You got to get real hair clippers. You got to go on Amazon. You got to find you a set of good actual hair clippers. And you got to drop that $50 or whatever if you want to shave your head. Obviously, I don't shave my head now, but I did get them clippers. And they go through some hair, but beard trimmers, no, they get caught and then they die part of the way through. It's not a good call, but it's a TV show, so you don't have any of those issues. The issues that you do have are with Naggy Wife, because she's not a fan of the new look, and she's not hiding it at all. Walter Jr. likes it, though. So good for Walter Jr. And now Walt is at the distributor's place, Tuco, with his own pound of meth. And this is going to get silly. Uh, he's, he's, and this is something I'm sure I will expand upon at some point in time. But for now, I'm going to try to not go here because it's probably my biggest annoyance so far in watching season 1 of this show. It's the balls that Walt has that he's never shown his family or anyone else in his life except for the most dangerous criminals he's ever dealt with. More testy of the methy. He came up with a fake name. So this is where Heisenberg was born. And he demands $50,000. And I ask, is Walt about to blow up this dude's place? Hell yes, he is. That wasn't meth. It was a damn bomb. And they make a deal for double the meth. And Walt is stoked about his bag of cash and probably the adrenaline rush. And that is the episode. A wild episode. A couple of things that I think we have to suspend disbelief on a bit. The brother-in-law not suspecting Walt at all when he has what his lab has described as the purest meth ever made, and the evidence all points to Walt's classroom where he teaches the discipline required to cook meth. And he's been acting super shady, and he's shown all the interest in the earlier episodes about the meth trade. How much do they make and all of that shit. And it just so happens that he works with a pothead, and that is just enough of a distraction that, nope, we're good. Okay. The other thing is the Tuco exchange. He doesn't try Walt's meth, and he doesn't make Walt do it either, like he did with Jesse. And then, not only does he not kill Walt for blowing up his place, he's actually the one to initiate the business deal. And he pays Walt. He got mad at Jesse and beat him to a pulp with the money. And he pays Walt, agrees to double the shipment, and not kill this dude that literally blew up his spot. That is a whole lot of convenience all bundled up in one little baggie full of crystals. Now, you get to decide if they're the kind that alert reality or just, or alter reality, or, just blow shit up. That leads us to my ridiculous predictions that I know will have been wrong, and we get to laugh at me together. But my predictions at the time of watching this episode were, I think that Walt might actually start treating Jesse with some level of respect after this. Or he may just go the opposite, thinking he's totally Billy badass now. One or the other, one extreme or the other. We're not going to stay in this weird middle ground. Are we even in a middle? I don't know. The second one is brother-in-law and Nagy wife are going to conspire against Walt and start to suspect him. Something's going to happen to stop the investigation or like point them in another direction or something. He obviously can't pin it on Walt in the first season of the show. There's 5 seasons to like in this show. But I think that Nagy wife's suspicious nature and the evidence that Hank has, they're going to come together at some point in this show. And that's probably how Hank actually ends up catching Walt. Because again, like I mentioned on the last episode, since watching the first season, there was a moment online fairly recently that I was spoiled that at some point in time, that actually happens. So that's where I was a year ago, and a lot of things that I'm thinking right now about the show. It is, I will expand upon my earlier thought. It's the thing that is going to keep bugging me, I think, until I get over it or something happens to explain it a little bit, is just this completely different Walt. Like, he's and not just how Walt is different in the level of confidence he shows and the way that he takes charge and like demands things of these super dangerous people. It's really the convenience that it doesn't backfire on him when it backfires on everybody else. And that's stuff that we're going to continue to explore. So I'm not going to beat it into the ground today. So that's all I got for this one. If you enjoyed my reaction to my reaction of this episode of Breaking Bad, leave a review on whatever app that you are using right now to consume this podcast. Please. If you want to join the discussion, there is a free Facebook group for listeners of the podcast. There is a link in the show notes of this episode. We're also, social media and stuff at Belated Binge. There's patreon.com/Belated Binge, all the things. Remember, life is short. Still, maybe, perhaps, just maybe, don't become a meth dealer. But if you do, hey, buy an RV, wear headphones, and take Belated Binge, Breaking Bad, wherever that RV takes you.